And before I hear you cry, I cannot even name 30 vegetables. If you're feeling bloated, sluggish, or just a bit curious about what fibre does in your body, this one's for you. Fibre is finally having its moment in the spotlight. Protein, well, that's been top of the billing for years, but now it's all about fibremaxxing, and with good reason. In this video, I'll explain what the gut microbiome is, the different types of fibre, and the difference between prebiotics and probiotics. And I'll give you 5 practical supplement-free ways to support your gut health using real food. And if we've not met before, hi, I'm Ruth, I'm a registered health coach and I make videos about healthy habits for over 50s women. And if you're returning, thank you, lovely to have you back. And before we get going, if you have a bowel condition, for example, IBS or celiac disease, please check with your doctor or dietitian before making big changes to your diet. There are millions of bacteria living in your colon, and we start collecting these little hitchhikers the moment you're born, from your mum and from the environment around you. And once they're with you, they're pretty much there for life. Some are so-called good bacteria, so they have a beneficial role for our health, like protecting us from absorbing toxins. Others are known as bad bacteria, and if out of balance, these can cause health problems like inflammation. Now, the microbiome, that refers to the bacteria plus their genetic material and the environment in which they're living. So different parts of the body have different microbiomes. For example, your gut or your skin or the vagina. And some studies suggest that a less diverse, so a less variable microbiome, well, that's associated with chronic diseases like heart disease and type 2 diabetes. And we know that the microbiome changes as we age. And interestingly, there are sex differences between men and women's microbiome, and these tend to even out after the menopause, so there might be a role for estrogen. Hey, it does most things. But there's currently not enough evidence to say whether HRT significantly affects the microbiome or not. So next, let's talk about fibre. So what even is fibre anyway? Well, it's part of a carbohydrate. So carbohydrates are made up of sugars, starches and fibre. And fibre is the bit that isn't digested. So the sugars and the starches, they get broken down to things like glucose or fructose in the gut and absorbed. Whereas fibre, that passes through to the colon undigested, and then the gut bacteria get to work on it. So there's 2 types of fibre. Soluble fibre dissolves in water to form a gel. You'll find it in foods like oats, barley, ground flaxseed, bananas, almonds, lentils and sweet potatoes. Insoluble fibre doesn't dissolve. It adds bulks to your poo and it keeps everything moving. You get it from things like wheat bran, whole grains, berries, spinach and kale. So fibre is brilliant stuff, and eating more of it is linked with a reduced incidence of diseases like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity and some inflammatory conditions. And that's all because of fermentation. So fermentation, that's what happens when the bacteria break down the fibre. Kind of similar to the process when you make sourdough bread or brew beer. Now, carnivores, they don't have a very long colon because they don't do any fermentation, because they don't really eat many plants. As opposed to herbivores, they do a lot of fermenting, so they tend to have a long colon, and some of them, in the case of the ruminants, like cows, have got extra stomachs. Now, we're somewhere in between because we're omnivores, so we've got a middling length colon and we do some fermenting. So what happens is the fibre ferments in our colon and it produces these chemicals called short chain fatty acids. And there's a couple of these, but the one that's been studied the most is called butyrate, and it's thought to have anti-inflammatory properties. So to sum up, we've got millions of bacteria living in our colon, and the more species we have, the better. So we've got to look after them. So here are 5 ways to do it, and none of them involve supplements. So firstly, prebiotics. Prebiotics are the foods which your gut bugs love. They're the fermentable fibres that feed the bacteria. You'll find them in onions, leeks, garlic, apples, bananas, asparagus, artichokes, oats and barley. And if you are an IBS sufferer, you'll recognise that several of these are high in FODMAP. So again, check in with your doctor if you want to make big changes to your diet. Secondly, probiotics. Now they're the bacteria themselves, so you can get them in various supplements, but equally you can get them from fermented foods as well. So here's a few examples. So firstly, sauerkraut, that's fermented cabbage, or you can get fancy versions with extra things in like beetroot. The name is German, but apparently, fact fans, it originated in China. Kimchi, well, that's the spicy Korean side dish made from fermented vegetables. Kefir, well, that's a fermented milk drink, although you can get slightly thicker versions that have the consistency of a thin yogurt. Now, it does have quite a sour taste, so not everybody likes it, but handy hint, you can mix it with some Greek yogurt, and that makes it a lot more palatable. Now, some regular yogurts have bacteria too. In the UK, for example, the Activia range. My favourite type of yogurt is Greek yogurt, yet that has bacteria in too. Just check the packaging. It should either say contains live cultures or list what they are. I like Greek yogurt because it's thicker, it's a strange yogurt, and it has a higher protein content than regular. Next, kombucha. Not all fermented foods have to begin with K, there just are quite a few which do. This is a fermented drink made of bacteria, yeasts, sugar and tea. And the sugar's required because that's what the bacteria and yeast feed on. Now you can of course make your own, but there are commercially available ones too, and the sugar content of these that's left over after the bacteria have done their thing, well, that varies. And in terms of looking at food labels, well, low sugar is defined as less than 5%, so less than 5 grams per 100 grams. Now, tempeh, this comes in a block, a bit like tofu, is made of fermented soya beans. Now, I've really tried with this. I've tried to like it, but I've just not been able to cook it to make it taste good. I've tried steaming it, but that didn't work. Anyone got any handy hints? Please let me know. I'm all ears. Although the kind of beany texture of it gives me the creeping horrors kind of. I don't know why, it's completely irrational. It just does. Now, some cheese that contains bacteria as well, particularly the kind of aged things like a really nice aged English cheddar. You know, when it goes really kind of nutty. And finally, miso. This is a paste made from fermented soya beans. It can add a kind of earthy taste to stir fries and sauces. It's nice in small doses. Now, number 3, lots of different plants. Now, there's evidence showing that the more different types of plants we eat, the more diverse our microbiome. And this study found that people who eat more than 30 a week, well, they have more diversity. And before I hear you cry, I cannot even name 30 vegetables. There's more to plants than veg. So yes, it includes fruit and veg, but it also includes things like coffee, cocoa, so coffee and chocolate, herbs and spices, as well as beans and legumes. And if you want to challenge yourself to eat 30 plants in a week, I've made a downloadable PDF giving you a list of the things to look out for, and on the back there's a place to write what you've eaten and tick them off. I'll put the link in the description below. I'll also link it on the screen, and if you tick the box, you sign up to my newsletter and you get healthy habit tips in your inbox every Friday. Now, you might have seen the latest social media trend of fibremaxxing. So fibremaxxing is adding foods to your meals to boost the fibre. And for once, this is a wellness trend I can actually get behind because it's A, sensible, and B, good for you. I know, right? But when you consider that most of the people, both in the US and the UK, are eating about half the amount of fibre they should, then again, this is actually quite useful. Now, we should be eating around 25 to 30 grams a day, and these are a few of my favourite high fibre foods. Ground flaxseed. Now, this is high in soluble fibre, so add it to your breakfast or salad. Chia seeds, sunflower seeds, almonds, oats, raspberries, lentils. You can add these to soups, stews and pasta sauce. And whole wheat pasta, so swap out the white, and chickpeas, which are great in a curry or a salad. Sweet potatoes, because they've got more fibre than white potatoes, and green peas. And here's a couple of really easy ideas. So soak 25 grams of almonds and sunflower seeds in water overnight to soften them. The next morning, drain them, put them in a food processor with a small apple, keep the skin on, and blitz it. And the proper name for this is a mandolard. Then if you add some Greek yogurt and a few raspberries, you've got about 10 grams of protein in just one bowl. You can add even more if you put some more seeds on the top. Or make a bersha muesli by soaking some oats overnight with a little flaxseed and some grated apple. The next morning, add in that yogurt and raspberries, and again, you've got about 10 grams. And at dinner, aim to fill half your plate with vegetables. If you're having something like pasta, swap out some of the pasta, add in some green vegetables like some peas, fill up your plate with a large side salad. And if you fancy something sweet afterwards, dark chocolate, so about 70-75% or above, that's got about 11 grams of fibre per 100 grams, so bonus. And number 5, cut down on ultra-processed foods or UPFs. And there are some studies showing that the emulsifiers in UPFs can disrupt gut bacteria and trigger inflammation, but there are very few human studies. Most of them are done in animals or in cells in a petri dish, so-called in vitro studies. But what we do know is that UPFs tend to contain sugar, salt and fat, and because of their light texture, we tend to overeat them as well. So there's lots of reasons to reduce them in your diet. And you'll note I said reduce, not eliminate. And this is because I'm a realist. We live busy lives and sometimes you do need food out of a packet for convenience or cost. So you don't need to be perfect. Start out by swapping one processed food in your diet for a whole food equivalent and take it from there. So that's your 5 ways. Prebiotics, probiotics in the form of fermented foods, plant diversity, fibremaxxing and reducing UPFs. Look after your gut bugs and they'll look after you. You can download the 30 Plant Challenge below. And if you're keen to support your health in other areas, check out my video on calcium-rich foods, which are incredibly important in midlife women, and I'll see you there.